Hello and merry meet. It's time for Witchy Book Club, which actually I forgot to grab my book. It's behind me. There we go. Wasn't far. Tonight, Witchy Book Club is, we are just starting C.S. Lewis, The Great Divorce. So, very exciting. It's a fun book.
Welcome to Definitely Not Narnia. We're having a divorce.
Exactly. Well, even if you read like all of his like adult books, like The Mere Christianity and The Great Divorce and Screwtape Letters, and then you go back and read Narnia, it's an eye opener.
I like about the divorce books. They're really symbolic, deeply symbolic.
Yes, they are. I mean, he really analyzes religious thought and spirituality like on a deep level. So, yeah, we'll jump in. It is open panel, so if you have read The Great Divorce, we're doing chapters 1 through 4. You can jump up and join us, or if you just have a comment, it is open panel tonight. So we would love to have anyone additional. And if you come late, well, you won't hear this, but if you can't stay the whole time, I do post this on Patreon and on YouTube. I almost said Facebook, but that's wrong one. All right, so chapter 1. Chapter 1 is not very long, but there is so much in this. So I guess we'll start. What does the scene in the bus queue symbolize about life in this setting? All right, Bren, you ready? Because it's intense.
Let me have it.
All right. Okay, so, and what I love about C.S. Lewis is how vivid his language is. And, when you read it, you feel like you are standing in this bus queue. So the protagonist is actually the narrator, and he's highlighting his feelings of being isolated, and he's disenchanted, and this environment is very dreary. It does talk about how there's rain, and I can actually, since this one, I don't know that it's on copyright, but let me see if I can find at least the first paragraph. Okay. I seemed to be standing in a busy queue by the side of a long main street. Evening was just closing in, and it was raining. I had been wandering for hours in similar mean streets, always in the rain, always in the evening twilight. Time seemed to have paused on the dismal moment, when only a few shops have lit up, and it is not yet dark, enough for their windows to look cheery. And just as evening never advanced to night, so my walking had never brought me to better parts of the town. However far I went, I found only dingy lodging houses, small tobacconists, hoardings from which posters hung in rags, windowless warehouses, goods stations without trains, and bookshops of the sort that sell the works of Aristotle. I never met anyone, but for the little crowd at the bus stop. The whole town seemed to be empty. I think that was why I attached myself to this queue. So, what do we think about this? I mean, this paragraph's just mind-blowing.
It really gives you that feeling of being so detached.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is this? Like empty warehouses. I mean, that kind of can even show that there's this disconnect from going to somewhere where you have either something that it's like you're taking something completely out of something, you're making it completely bare, and you're just trying to find meaning in something that used to have deep meaning to it, but it doesn't anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's such a dreary environment, and I mean it doesn't really say that it's cold, but when you're in the rain walking around, after a while you are going to get cold, and he doesn't even talk about that. So it like brings you that isolation and that desolation, and it's just that foreshadowing of what's going on. Um we do learn that this is the step into the spirit realm. Wouldn't it be great to sit with C.S. Lewis and ask if he had a near unaliving experience? I mean,
I
because
bet
this
you
is,
he would have.
yeah, that's what I've thought just from a lot of the other stuff I've read.
Hmm. Now I'm curious. Now I'm actually looking up his astrology chart to actually see.
Right. I know. It's like I want to grab like a bunch of his bibliographies because it's like, I mean, this is the third time I've read this, and I'm finding things that I didn't find the other times. So, um, yeah, if you happen to find it, Bren, please pipe in. So, so he stands in this queue. So now he's in this queue, and the characters in this queue are very hostile towards the bus driver and each other. So it's raining, and a lot of people feel rain is dreary. Like I'm one of those. When it's raining in the daytime, I will go dance in the rain. I've even danced in the rain at night, but I find rain refreshing. But this rain is depressing. Like there's no refreshing around this rain. Um, so like there's a woman that loses her place in line to a deceitful man. Um, they're eager to get on the bus, so there's pushing and fighting to get on top of this, like almost like a sense of survival. But there's like no social bounds, like there's or bonds, I should say, no social bonds. Like there's no like let me be friendly to other people. It's like competition is fierce, like let me on this bus. So what does that, I mean, like what are your thoughts with that, Bren? What does that show for you?
I actually just found his birth chart right when you asked me the question. His birth chart actually pulled up. Looking at it, like his chart, I can definitely see he would have had some kind of event happen that did almost take his life.
Ooh.
Especially, it could have involved something about him having a big psychological breakdown, like really big. And because of that, like it would have been something, say, if he was like writing well, because how he has his placements, he has his Pluto, well, his moon is like hemmed by two planets, Pluto and Neptune, both in Gemini. So that can easily show the mind is already unstable, but it's being swung between extreme, um, like extreme intuition, extreme spiritual and communication. So that's like everyday writing. But across the way, there's also this major conjunction of Uranus, Venus, Saturn, and Mercury, and Venus is retrograde on top of that. And where Venus is placed, that is in the part of Sagittarius called Mula, the roots. So he constantly goes back into himself to pull himself out of it. Because when Venus goes retrograde, it goes within himself. He's constantly trying to bring a life to his philosophy. Because he keeps reaching back in and then pulling himself back out.
The other thing that's fascinating, like as you're saying that, it reminded me, his mentor was Tolkien.
That's right. Because
Yeah.
yeah,
And when he was writing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I mean, like, okay, so you've got two completely brilliant men. I mean, when you look at Tolkien and you look at C.S. Lewis, they're both so like brilliant, you know? And Tolkien, here we go. He's, got this anthropology degree, and I can't remember all of his, he had like 3 degrees. And he makes up Elven, the language is actually a language he invented and is a real language. And he makes up these worlds from his studies through anthropology. So, like, Tolkien spent a lot of time and energy creating Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And C.S. Lewis, when you look at The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because they were first, and you look at those, C.S. Lewis is he's thinking on a different level. I mean, you've got Tolkien, who's on this brilliant level, creating civilizations, creating people, creating characters, and you've got C.S. Lewis also doing the same thing. They both have this beautiful, vivid language that takes you there. But C.S. Lewis is spiritually connected. Like, you see him trying to analyze theology and religion and spirituality.
And
And here,
what's really crazy about this, he does not have any Pisces placements. He doesn't have any.
wow,
He does
wow.
not have a single Pisces placement. And
Ooh,
where,
I wonder if you're going to have to pull Tolkien a little bit later.
yeah, because I mean, the really closest that we can, I mean, I can say where any form of spirituality could even come from any of this, it would have to be where, because he has his moon in Cancer and in Aslacia, the part of Cancer that's the snake. So he possibly, now again, he probably, I mean, he could have either one. He could have been attempted to be poisoned, and the medicine he took in, that could have been a method of somebody trying to get at him, like poison him, or he might have actually had a possible maybe idea of getting revenge by poisoning somebody, maybe. But his Jupiter, where it's placed at 0 degrees of Scorpio, that's in Vishaka. So he constantly, well, because having Jupiter there, that could have easily shown that his higher form of intelligence and just himself altogether, because you can use Jupiter as a alternative ascendant. Jupiter could easily make him have potential to have a split mind, possibly. He can go one way, then he can go another. He can step into both perspectives very easily. And Jupiter owns the chakra too.
Which makes sense when you read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, because it has to go on the regular everyday world, then got to go into Narnia, then you got to come back, then go back.
Yep. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. Yeah, and the language is so vivid in this first chapter.
But he also, one thing, well, I'm just looking at it, his south node, K2, is in the beginning of Leo in what's called Maga, and it is pinpoint exactly conjunct his Mars. Just like me, except mine's not point blank conjunct. Yeah, well, in Vedic it's conjunct, but either way. But still, that combination, and in Mula, well, for one thing, he would have a really deep connection to spiritual ancestors or ancestry in general. He would have a strong, like, resonance towards it. He might have been detached from anything involving a throne or a kingdom. Yeah, which kind of does. That doesn't make sense too.
And actually, as you're reading the chart, I think it's, what, keep going with the chart, because then I think I can go through some of these summaries, and then we can kind of discuss. Because honestly, like, he's so spiritually attuned.
And also him having Uranus, Sun, Venus, Saturn, and Mercury conjunct. Well, having, oh boy, that easily can show, well, because you have two bitter enemies. Well, you have two enemies to Saturn, one being a bitter enemy, you have Venus being hemmed by two malefics, even though that one of them is her best friend, Saturn. And Mercury is also there, so that helps it too. But that combination there easily, at least what I'm looking at, it can show that essentially he was pretty groundbreaking in terms of his roots. It's like his foundation was completely unstable. So he had to grow in an environment where it was usually hot-headed. He usually might have had a father figure that was just looking over his shoulder all the time. And whenever he wrote, he possibly got backlash from the father.
Well, and Tolkien told him that the Lord or that the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series was not going to be successful.
There we go. And Sagittarius is the original ninth house of the mentor figure also. Where do you have it? Okay, there's...
Yeah, and you look at it, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, granted, not as successful as Tolkien.
But it's still a work.
Yes. I mean, it's, you think about it, the reading levels, when you look at Tolkien's work, they're very advanced. Mm-hmm. So, unless you're an advanced reader, you're really not going to read that till junior high, potentially high school. Yep. Where the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a lot of kids are going to start reading it the really smart kids, third grade, maybe, but, the tail end of elementary school. Mm-hmm. Granted, they're not going to get a lot of the symbolism associated with theology.
Yeah. And he also has... use it. Jupiter is next door. So essentially, in order for the best way for him to have made any kind of financial at all, he would have had to do everything really by himself. Looking at this, like in order for him to sustain himself, he would have to have done something involving he had to be really reliant upon himself and using his intelligence and wisdom in order to get himself through a lot. Because his money making is with Venus, but Venus is retrograde. But the good thing is, this is when you have a combination of Venus, where any planet that's retrograde, a retrograde planet, and then you're having the sun come into contact with it, making it combust. So now the planet that's going in retrograde motion, the sun is burning its retrograde significance. So it's actually acting in a way that's more dignified. So in this case, although he may have had his creativity and ability to express himself be possibly hindered or burnt, he's able to recover it, especially if he went back into his own roots of his psychology. He'd be able to pull himself back out of it.
Yeah, and you think about it now. Now we'll jump into this chapter a little bit more. Well, is there more, Bren? Did you get all of the chart?
I can't see really much of anything else except the other major thing that I can also see is that if he had a child at all, it possibly could have been somebody who was very aggressive. If he had a student, the student would have been aggressive. If he had a child, the child would be very aggressive. To the point where you could see somebody being a bit physically aggressive.
Okay. I don't know if he had children. I'm going to look real quick. I'm going to see if he did have any, just out of curiosity, because, that may make a big impact, too. Let's see. No, he did not have children.
And I can see that because because Mars is barely, just barely having a connection between K2, and K2 goes meh with it in the fifth house. Children, meh with it.
Yeah, and he was only married for 4 years.
Yeah, I can see there being a marriage problem because again, Venus retrograde. Still, the spouse comes in, but the significance is burnt. So possibly, this I'm looking at like the spouse figure could have been afflicted by a disease.
Well, and he was young. I mean, he was 65 when he passed.
Yeah.
Okay, so oh, his mother passed. Oh, he was only 10 years old when his mother passed.
Yeah.
That would make a big impact in anybody's life.
Yep. And well, because let's see, we're yeah, because at the age of 10, his at that time, I could see. Oh, yeah, I could see that. I could see that being triggered. Mm. Oy.
So we will get into the book, The Great Divorce, for those that are here with us joining. I see a lot of people have joined. But I do have his website up, so they do have like I'm gonna just kind of like throw a couple other things out here because I think you might like this. So June 8th, 1917, he enlisted in the British Army.
Hmm.
So a year late, almost just shy of a year, his close friend was unalived in a battle, but he was wounded in April of 1918. So we know this is World War One. For those that may not, I happen to unfortunately know a lot of the dates of wars, so I find history fascinating. So he meets Tolkien in 26. So, okay, this does not have, I'm really surprised it does not have when he, because I had said that he had, okay, all right, okay, so he was born Protestant, became atheist. He stopped being atheist in 1929. He abandoned atheism and converted to theism. That I did not know. So his father passed away in 1929. So at that point, he was almost in his 30s. Converted to Christianity in 1931.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
The Great Divorce, I'm looking for when The Great Divorce was published because he published a lot of books. Okay, The Great Divorce was published in 1946. So
Wow.
that's the book we're reading right now. Yeah.
That's like two. That's 2 years after my grandparents were born. Good lord.
Yeah. Yeah, the timeline doesn't have, so, when he published The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 1950, it doesn't have much here on the website. I mean, they're not going to probably talk about the falling out with Tolkien. But he was not happy because Tolkien was like, he's like, no, this isn't good. Because you think about it, you've got C.S. Lewis, who's completely brilliant, but he's brilliant when it comes to philosophy, spirituality, and theology. Where you've got Tolkien, who's really brilliant with languages and anthropology. Now, he is also brilliant with philosophy, but Tolkien's like, I mean, when you look at the buildup of the different civilizations and cultures, because Tolkien didn't just like write a book, he made culture. for his characters. And C.S. Lewis is looking at it from this theological aspect. So it is pretty interesting to see those differences. And you've got two men who are, I mean, quite frankly, just from their reading, I could see meeting them. They're probably a little bit egotistical. So
Yep. That brings Saturn involved thinking, oh, you two think you're hot shit, huh? Get back down.
I'm as wonderful as it would be to meet them both, you know that they would be completely egotistical. So, so very, very fascinating. So yeah, and he was oh, okay, so he was married for 4 years, but it wasn't a divorce. His wife actually passed away.
See?
Yep, so lots and lots of trauma he had. That would make sense because um no, that actually makes more sense.
Hey, how she passed?
No, it does not. So I'm sure, like, I know there's a lot of biographies and stuff, so I'm sure somewhere it probably says that. But yeah, his website is very brief. I don't know who runs it. Um, well, there are some more resources though. I mean, it could be a cousin or something. Yeah. No, it does not say. But that does make it very interesting. So The Great Divorce was published well before he was married. Um, I'm just going to check one more place to see if I can see what happened to the spouse. Also just we want to keep in mind he was Irish too. So we do know, Ireland has gone through a lot, which is something to kind of keep in mind. Okay, so let's see. Oh, she had a form of cancer.
Hmm. And back then, I mean, they didn't have what was the best way to actually combat cancer back then.
Right. Yeah. So that would have been very traumatizing, especially because, I mean, you think about it, like it would have been horrible to watch and have to work with. So, oh, and here's something of note. Um, Wait, is that his brother? Oh, okay. Here's interesting. See, it didn't list it when you just do a Google search. So his wife had been divorced and had two children, and he adopted both of those children.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's actually very sweet.
but actually, yeah, I can kind of. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Like, it's funny because because one of the not really looked at significators of K2 the South Node is that K2 is a really strict law abiding planet because K2 doesn't do man's law. Man's law is completely different, but law as in like a higher spiritual law. So when marrying somebody, when you are choosing to make their children become your own, you're doing something that is beyond the physical. You're taking fathership over those children now, which is seen as this highly spiritual act, which makes sense because K2 being in Maga, which is connected to the Pitris, the ancestors, that's how that would be in taking them into your lineage on a higher spiritual level. So that makes perfect sense now.
Yeah. So it looks like one of them did pass away from paranoid schizophrenia.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
no.
So the one who passed away from paranoid schizophrenia passed away actually in 2014. So this was way up. So this is way after C.S. Lewis had passed. So
Oh, did he, was it because, did they say because of him losing control of himself? Or,
it doesn't say, it's just very vague.
okay, because I mean, because the thing with that affliction, it's really, uh,
Yeah.
it hits me
It's just
harder because, yeah, mine
yes,
has
yes.
something kind of like that too.
And there are a lot of people who do fine, like can function, and some people can't. So it says that David passed away in a Swiss mental hospital.
Oh,
So
oh. That really does. Because sometimes it just really makes me wonder sometimes. Maybe people that have that condition, maybe they just do not have anybody that's able to understand what they're experiencing and allowing them to just speak and allow them to just be heard. Sometimes that might is all it is that's needed to make the difference and just to adapt.
something that I've always honestly believed, and it wasn't taught in my religion,
Hmm.
when the forced religion I grew up in. That's how I should say it. I mean, well, because let's face it, our parents, when they make that choice, it is kind of forced because you kind of have to go. Um, but my mother had always said that anyone with a severe disability were angels and were special. And I always kind of took that to heart.
Hmm.
Not that my mother was like a C.S. Lewis and brilliant with theology and everything, but as I've gotten older, I've noticed, like, well, growing up, two of my neighbors, one had, well, actually, no, yeah, two of them. One had Down syndrome and it was pretty severe, and the other one had a chromosomal disorder. I don't remember what it is. It's not Down syndrome, but
Is
was
it
not.
Huntington's disease?
I to be honest, I can't remember because it was one that I hadn't really heard of, and as we got older, you just kind of like I never asked, like, you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Um, and he was my neighbor across the street. But there was something about both of these because, like, when my mom had said that, I was like, okay. And one of the girl was a year older than me, and the neighbor across the street, he was 2 years younger than me. But when I tell you they are the most loving people, I like, honestly, they are the most loving people because they see things. They have that sixth sense, or maybe it's like a seventh or an eighth sense, where, like, they know when you need comfort. There's just little things that most of us humans, it might take us decades and maybe even multiple lifetimes to figure out.
Yeah.
And so where I'm going with that is that I've kind of noticed in my lifetime, because I have known a couple people with schizophrenia myself, and I've noticed, even though at times that can be extremely debilitating, they have something that we don't have. It's that same thing that I noticed growing up with the two who had the different chromosomal disorders. They have this love and this light
Oh, yes.
that no one else has. So is it, and here we go, spiritual thought, is this because they are so special and they have elevated to such a point, but there's just something they still have to do, and so they were given another life, and they were told, we're going to give you a bit, you're going with a burden, though, like a burden compared to, like, us, but yet it's not really a burden. because we're supposed to learn from them. And are we?
Oh, yeah, and I mean, I'm trying not to get emotional because that really does touches a really personal, well, not really personal, but it just has that really deep meaning to it, especially when you just have a loved one that has that condition,
Mm-hmm.
and hearing that I don't even I don't have words, to be honest.
Yeah, because they can love more than we can. I mean, they
Oh,
really can. I mean, they know unconditional love. They live it every day.
hmm
And we
oh,
put conditions and expectations where they don't.
yep. Oh boy, I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to
Sorry.
cry crocodile tears because that is just so. Yeah.
Yeah. Just something to think about, something I've just kind of noticed. Like it was just, here it is, my mom who who was not a theologist, who wasn't a philosopher. She was just a mom. I mean, she could cook great, like, but her she wasn't academic. All right, she had her smarts, but not in academia. And it was the one thing that she said to me that I was like, wow, and it just really stuck. And I've just noticed, so I'm that person that when I'm seeing somebody who's got Down syndrome, I will help them. I'll do it. Like if they want me to do a leprechaun dance for them, I'll do it. Because being around them brings more joy because they have something that we do not have. And I do believe it comes from the divine creator, depending upon who you believe your divine creator is. But I mean, there you go. That's just a belief.
Yeah, and they have like well, since their regular intelligence may not be deemed as up to par or whatever, or social intelligence may not be up to par or what have you, it's made up with that emotional intelligence.
Yes.
So it always balances itself out in other ways.
Yes. And that's what we lack in, you know? We have to learn from them to get that unconditional love and to grow. Not necessarily. I mean, we can do it on our own, but
To
if you
their
know
level, we can't comprehend it.
exactly, because they were given a secret that we don't have access to, and unless we're willing to open our hearts and learn from them.
Oh, that's definitely true. Okay, back to business
Back
before
to
I begin crying crocodile tears.
right, right. So maybe that helps us open up this a little bit more. So I'm just going to kind of give like a brief summary, I think, because these chapters are pretty intense, and then we'll just kind of just go over the chapters. So in the beginning, I did read that paragraph. He's standing in the bus queue. It's raining. This area is just dreary. Honestly, it sounds really awful, but there's parts of Chicago that really remind me of this area. And the first time I read it, I didn't live in Chicago. So now this time I'm like, oh my gosh, kind of freaked me out a little bit. So, all right, he's standing in this line, and the bus driver and the other people in this bus line are showing hostility, bitterness, just some aggression. They're projecting their frustrations on other people. You see this resentment growing, and the bus driver does have a golden vehicle, and it's got this commanding presence. So we see in the queue, like a woman loses her place in line to a deceitful man. So this is really important because we're seeing these characters. So we see a deceitful man. We see a desperate struggle. We see each of them struggling to belong. We see them fighting and pushing each other aside. Survival instincts are coming out. Weak social bonds, but a very fierce competition. So we do need to be aware that in this chapter, when you really read it, that there is self-awareness and realization of our true nature and desires start to come to the surface. So the protagonist is like looking at this, and he's trying to seek something greater and something better than this dismal situation of this horrible area, and he's trying to get on this bus. So the bus is a symbol of escape, leaving this dismal, dreary place, hopefully leaving these miserable people that are fierce and aggressive, looking for a change. Isn't that what we're doing right now in our spiritual growth? Aren't we looking for a change? Are we waiting for the bus?
Or maybe the thing is that also maybe the bus can also be, well, that waiting in line can also even show, while in a moment of stillness, somehow, some way, there's always going to be some form of noise that's going to try so hard to get your attention and pull you into it somehow.
Yeah.
And being aware of it's probably the biggest first step, because if you aren't aware of it, you'll just get pulled in without even knowing it.
Knowing it. Yep. So we finally get on this bus. So the protagonist finally gets on the bus, and we don't know his name because he's just the narrator. And the bus flies above the town. So this flying can represent a higher perspective or an awakening to reality. But like, you can look down, you can see in front of you, you can see what was holding you back in your mundane life. Are we transcending? Are we on a spiritual awakening? And so that's just kind of a quick summary of chapter 1. So thoughts, Bren?
Yeah, it's a really good jumping off point, because at the beginning, it's showing you how on the mundane world every day, survival is the core thing that everybody has to fight for. Survival is something that has to be fought for. As dark as that sounds, that's what's happening every single second on this mundane plane. Surviving. You sometimes may not be thinking that, you're fighting for survival when you have a roof over your head and all that. But every day, like in the world of like other countries, like not developed countries, they're fighting to survive every second.
Yeah.
So it shows life on this mundane everyday is having to fight and survive against aggression, surviving against outside influence that can get you harmed. Even in environments where there may not be anything that's a threat that is animalistic or primal, but in like a concrete jungle, you're still in the wild surviving.
Yeah. I mean, we really are. We think like even just your community can be wild. It's not necessarily, I mean, I live in the middle of nowhere, so it's not necessarily that I'm going to get trampled by a moose. I could, but we are all in the wild. Even if you're in a big city, you're still in the wild. Especially, sometimes like the crime-ridden cities, because of animal instincts coming out. What I love about this chapter, because if you've never read this book, you don't know where it's going. And so there's a lot of growth that can be taken place just from the beginning chapter. I mean, it's not even that many pages, but when you look at it, it's like, wow, that was an intense chapter. So we don't know where we're going yet, unless you've read this before, like I have, and I know, Bryn, you've read it too. So
Not spoiling.
Yes. So we'll jump to chapter 2 now. So I'm going to give just a quick, brief summary, and then we'll just kind of jump into our thoughts. So there's a tousle-headed poet who symbolizes frustration and sense of justice felt by individuals who believe their talents and contributions are overlooked by society. Um, wow, how many of us feel that way? How many times do you feel like you're overlooked?
Oh well. It's really not my fault that some people can't see what's in front of them. Ahem. No.
Well, and and sometimes I do think, because I've even seen, and let's face it, I mean, I've been around people that they're really talented at something, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that, but that's not my gift, like, and when I was younger, I know I would get a little jealous. I mean, I even had like, I danced as a child, and I remember one of the neighbor girls, there was like five of us the same age that lived in the neighborhood, and one of them was so jealous that I danced. Now, all she needed to do was tell her mom put me in dance. She was an only child, and she got whatever she wanted. But instead, like, there was, and it's funny because it made a really big impact. She started telling everybody I was a horrible dancer, and just made me feel like 1 inch tall. And then I found out that it was because she was actually really jealous, because it got so bad that my mom had to go talk to her mom. And she's like, what's going on? And we were little, but jealousy, like, it even happens in the workplace where someone may come in that's extremely talented, and maybe somebody who's been there for a really long time, all of a sudden somebody's come in and knows more than they do and is more talented in the same role, and they get jealous. And what does that bring out? We can see it every day. I mean, it could even potentially happen in marriages, in partnership. Yeah, I mean, so it's like it's a learning process for us to be able to, well, first, I think we have to have expectations that we may be overlooked. Not everybody in society is going to recognize our talents.
That's an obviously yes.
Yeah.
However though, there is also a fine line of, because now this is kind of going a bit more on the personal, like family knowing and all that stuff. There's a fine line of not understanding and not being able to comprehend. And there's a fine line between being aware of somebody knowing their talents and gifts and pursuing them, seeing it, knowing that they're doing it, and still trying to put it down and put them down about it.
Yeah. Yes. Very, very valid point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also another thing to think about is a lot of times we have to be, in relationships. So especially like when you look at movies like the Disney versions, the old versions of like Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella and the knight in shining armor saving the princess. And most girls, especially like when you get older, so these are, I'm sure there are some millennials that still, I mean, my daughters are both millennials, but I did not allow them to watch those Disney movies. I didn't. Like, they didn't watch them until they were in junior high at a friend's house.
Yeah, because it shows that essentially, in order for them to feel safe and secure, they need to have a male figure rescue them every time.
Exactly. And um also shows that men are supposed to be, because it also teaches that the man is going to bring you flowers and, like, go out there all the way. And that doesn't happen. We have to sometimes express our needs and tell our partners what our need is. I need a hug right now. They're not going to, like, if you like mope around in front of them, they're not going to figure out that means you need a hug.
Exactly.
But where I was going with that is that if you're not feeling recognized for your talents or your gifts, regardless of if it's academic or you know, you're brilliant in your work, or you're brilliant as a singer or a writer or a poet or an artist, sometimes you might have to say, what do you think of this? Is this nice? Sometimes we have to actually ask for just that pat on the back of that's a beautiful painting you just did.
Yep. And I mean, truthfully, and that's something that even I struggle with because I'm somebody. It's just going to sound so weird, but the way that I operate, I think, okay, so I put in a lot of work and effort into this, or even better yet, let's take it another step further. Okay, so I'm going to expect people to have the awareness of like a person and actually try their best. I understand circumstances happen, but I'm going to hope that they're going to be considerate and mindful of how they're coming towards me and taking me into consideration. And nope, because again, the survival. They're looking out for themselves first.
Yeah.
And that's when you got to step up and be like, you're not going to take advantage of me. Nope. You want me to do this? That is absolutely fine. But you got to also be considerate of me. Why are you being difficult? Huh? That is the same concept.
Yes. Yes, it is. And I think also another thing to think about is if you want compliments, give them to other people too. Because now, most people, not all people, if you say, wow, you did a really good job on that meal you made, like, wow, that was really good, they're going to look for something nice to say about you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may not be right away, but they may see like Bren's book and go, wow, Bren, that book on Nyx was amazing. I'm so excited to read the one on Jezebel.
Yeah, and I mean, wait till you see. Actually, do I have enough? Let me see. Do I have it pulled up? If I have it pulled up, yeah.
Yeah, you
Okay, I
might
do.
as well, because she will be after, and we'll probably get through this, I'm thinking, in about 3, maybe 4 weeks.
Well, because I mean, I didn't have that book up just yet, but I mean, I do have this one here. Hold on, let me get this turned on. Okay, do I flip it this way? Give it a flip. Ah, come on. Just turn the thing on, please. Because I mean, this is how.
Yes. The Queen Hera. Yes.
Yeah,
That is so gorgeous. That cover is just so gorgeous.
yeah. Because I mean, I'm still. Yeah, I mean, good Lord, Lanta. Good Lord, Lanta. Yeah, I'm going all out. And this is just like the cover. And I'm just having that there as a placeholder. And that's the actual title page. Oh, oi. Be writing, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Formatting, they said. That'll also be fun. Oh.
They are fun. Well, I appreciate your talent.
As they say, well, I'm not only mighty with the pen, but also the blade. And I do have a blade, but I don't know where I put it.
Okay, so we're going to jump back to the book for, I know we got a little bit, that derailment actually kind of helps us understand the poet. The poet's negative experiences, which was lack of appreciation, led him to criticize the economic system for its oppression. And he does want to leave socialism to go to communism because he's very disillusioned by the world. How have negative, like we look at this poet, it's very profound because we can let the negativity in the world affect us to a severe point, or we can change the world. I mean, there's a thought, right?
And well, because when we when we're talking about like changing the world, now, how am I going to put this? You can change the world, or you can change one person that is in front of you.
Hmm.
The best put it, because you can change the world by doing something in a more higher state, but to change another person and an individual on the individual level, you'll be changing somebody in a way where, of course, that more kind of like what I was mentioning earlier about like being recognized and advocating for yourself as an individual, but then when you're advocating for a group of people, that's the more higher state.
Yeah, yes. And sometimes something as simple as a smile can change someone's day. I mean, even, like I rem I'll never forget. I was at the post office, and the guy in front of me was so mean to the clerk at the post office. Like just, and he was just like, I mean, when I walked in, I could see his energy was really, really negative. And then when he got up to the clerk, he was so rude to her. I just felt so bad. And I just found something, and she had like her hair was really pretty, and she had really great nails. And I just said to her, I'm like, I love your hair. And wow, look at your nails. Those are so gorgeous. And you saw her go from being yelled at and treated horribly by this man who was now gone to me just giving this simple compliment because she was ready. I mean, you could tell if somebody else was going to be mean to her, it was not going to be a good day. Now, granted, I'm not like a mean person, so it wasn't going to be me. But I was like, you know what? How can I change her day and make the rest of her shift worthwhile? Because like it sucks when you've got this line and you can't take a break and just go, breathe fresh air or take a mindfulness meditation for 1 or 2 minutes when you have to deal with something like that. And it's spreading smiles versus spreading anger and hate. And some people, they're so negative, they don't understand that.
Yep. And well, I mean, when I worked as a front end manager, I mean, I've made it perfectly clear. You give any of my cashiers, service desk, card attendants, maintenance workers, you give any of them lip, I'm 86ing you out the door. I was no nonsense. Like legit. You, oh, oh, yeah. I was like Mama Bear on that front end when I worked it. I didn't play.
Well, and you can't. I mean, you can't. And, it's like I called my boss actually, like, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I called her. Oh, it was a week. It was actually last week. At first, I thought it was a medical provider's office, but it ended up being an attorney office. And I'm like, hey, I hung up on the person. And my husband happened to not be working that day. So he was home and he heard me go, excuse me, to the person. So he had no idea what she said. But she said several swear words and called me an itch. And I was like, excuse me? I'm like, that language is not appropriate. This is not the time or place. And I am disconnecting this call immediately. And I hung up. So I called my
Attorney's
supervisor.
office?
Yeah. Yeah, I just called my supervisor. I said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be talked to like that. And she goes, no, you don't deserve to be talked to like that. And then we found out because the woman kept calling back and I wasn't going to answer. And then she left a message. And so I sent it to my supervisor and we found out it was in a law firm office. So they actually got it. She was the paralegal and they got the attorney on the phone. And they're like, no, like that is unprofessional for your office. I'm like, wow. Like, just wow. But you know what? If she was having a bad day, she was not going to spread it to me. And I was, we have to set firm boundaries. And,
And
you know,
I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm just like, it's common sense. Is like, if you're having a harsh time, okay, that's something for you to deal with. Don't vomit it on other people.
exactly. 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 And, so we have this poet with these negative experiences from his parents and all through his schooling. And when negativity is just coming down on you through your life, it is hard to overcome it. So, we see this with this poet, that he's very disillusioned, that he's a negative person, and he's on the bus to escape. So in the second chapter, we get to Greytown. And wow, how depressing does this sound? And see, like, here's where, like, C.S. Lewis brilliance comes out, because he literally takes you there. Like, you feel like you're there, and you're like, oh, should we thank him or not thank him? I think we might want to keep that on our back burner before we make a decision. But Greytown is showing us stagnation and despair. People are moving. There's endless conflicts. There's isolation, failure to build meaningful connections in this Greytown. So, does scarcity create a cooperation and a society? So,
Not really.
exactly.
But at the
So,
same time, it also, while making it not good for that, but it also teaches, well, the harsh lesson that, hey, there's not much of this. So not only are people going to become more animal-like and savage for it, they're also going to take it and hold it, and they're going to value it more.
yeah,
Hmm.
hopefully. Some may and some may not. I mean, that's always. So as we go through this chapter, we find out that people in Greytown are trapped by mistakes and grievances, and they are unable to evolve or engage in meaningfulness with others. And so they're just in this gray existence, kind of this sad existence. Now we do see a slight transition in this chapter from darkness to despair and potential enlightenment to understanding. So, and this is when we see dusk coming. The passengers on the bus, they have fear and denial as they're being confronted by this, and they're being confronted by their inner darkness, or what would Jung call it? Our shadow self. So really, we have, like, this chapter really kind of starts to open up that door to the shadow self. Anything you want to add on chapter 2, Bren?
Well, the main thing I'm going to say is that whenever the shadow gets mentioned, a lot of people be like, "Oh my God, Robert." No, calm down. The shadow is just as necessary as what is visible in the light side. It is just as important. Remember that.
It is, because sometimes what we have in our shadow self is our importantness. I mean, have you, like, anyone out there, this goes out to anybody, have you ever been something that you're not just to appease somebody, whether it's been your parents or a partner?
Yep. I'll admit
Yeah,
it.
I have too, Bren. I have too. And it takes a long time to realize, oh, wait, I need to be my normal self.
And a lot of people may not even ever want to admit that. No, I can never be like that. I'm always myself all the time. Yeah, I bet you are, Cupcake.
Exactly. No, it's hard to admit. Like, you think it's you, but it's really not you. And it sometimes, because if you have to pretend for a long time, you won't know what real you is.
Yes. And you'll just be a bypart of you just becoming like a mimic. or being robotic and functioning in a way where you lose control of yourself and you lose sight of yourself. You forget that you're more than just this fake version of you that's like that guy from the Dry Eyes commercial. Ooh, we don't want that.
So now we get into chapter 3. And so now they arrive at a new land. And there's a sense of freedom. And this land is very vast and expansive, and it's unlike anything ever seen before. And so it feels very liberating. However, there's that undercurrent of danger. Like, what else is here? So the fellow passengers step out into this new land. And what is interesting is they appear to be transparent. Like, and I love this description, man-shaped stains.
Oh.
Yeah. This is another reason I love C.S. Lewis, because, boy, I mean,
Oh.
yeah. I mean, it's, yes.
Oh,
so this
that
kind
is
of
deep.
getting,
Oh, Lordy.
right? Yeah. It's very, very deep.
Oh.
So he says they seem ghost-like compared to the solid, vibrant surroundings. This is our hint of where he's going. This is what the Great Divorce is. So our narrator struggles to pick up a daisy or a leaf and find that they're heavy or robust. So we find out that the narrator now is also a phantom, a ghost in this new land. So it contrasts the existence between their existence and the tangibility of the environment they're in. So now we kind of have an idea where this book is going, because they talk about ghosts and spirits. Yeah. Bren and I laugh. We know the answer. Sorry, we'll try not to give too many spoilers as we go through. So some of the spirits express discomfort and confusion. One screams and tries to return to the bus. Others show uncertainty about how to actually live on this land, what they need to do. So this is like a fear. Like, yeah. Then a radiant figure approaches, and the narrator represents a sense of strength, purity, and contrasting starkly against some of the other passengers. So when we look at this, we're really looking at signification of hope and a deeper existence. So we see, by the descriptions of the landscapes, we see duality of light versus dark, of vividness versus unvividness, the stark contrast of bright, vivid bodies to translucent bodies. And I'm just going to, like, the man-shaped stains.
Yeesh. Whew.
Yeah. I like it. It's just so profound. So we have a lot of bright imagery and this beautiful landscape. I mean, like, the description he gives of this land, like, I just want to run barefoot there, right? So, but this new landscape illustrates the difference between old shadowy world, that gray world that we just came from, to this new vibrant reality. So it really has a message. And are we still having fear, anxiety, and uncertainty, or are we ready to open up and embrace redemption and personal growth and a journey towards a true state of enlightenment, a true state of being? Your thoughts, Bryn?
Because now, it makes you now even think, were the people that were, did they by any chance, possibly, while on the bus, did they get into an accident? I don't know. Maybe man-shaped stains. What's when there's a fatality, what do they do? In order to make sure they don't lose the spot, they outline it in chalk. That's a man-shaped stain.
Oh, yeah, there we go. But
Very
did they do,
interesting.
but did they do that back when this book was written?
Maybe, maybe not,
Maybe not.
or
Yeah.
possibly because of it being a stain, because of the tragedy, it stains that spot in the environment, and that energy gets fixed and it resides there. Hmm.
Yeah, there we go. So very, very deep. Um, so you kind of have an idea, like, what is this? And some of you may or may not know. Please feel free to share. Those of you that are in the chat. Again, we're doing C.S. Lewis, The Great Divorce. And if you came late, because I've seen people coming and going, the replay will be on my Patreon and my YouTube channel, which if you're following me, you can click the bio and it will take you to my bio site and you can just click Patreon or YouTube and follow that. I also want to thank everybody for the gifts. Always appreciated, never expected. And thank you so much for the hearts. I'd love to, let's break 1,000 today, maybe. All right, here we go. We're going to go to our last chapter for tonight. So now we have, there's a solid spirit. We have like a ghostly spirit, a more translucent spirit. So this encounter can really help us determine our self-worth or justice. So keep that in mind. So the more translucent is tormented and is desperately clinging to its sense of self and perception, its moral superiority, its ego, and it's arguing for rights instead of seeking forgiveness. So the solid spirit, who is no longer translucent, has transcended. He's no longer feels guilt. He offers and seeks forgiveness and embodies the idea of true healing that comes when we relinquish the past and embrace humanity. So we really jump in. I mean, C.S. Lewis in this chapter, and this is chapter 4, really embraces the thought process of letting go and forgiveness. So think about that. Sometimes, and I know we've had discussions on spiritual panels, multiple spiritual panels on forgiveness. And so that can be in and of itself can be pretty intense, because forgiveness is kind of an intense thought process. Do we have to forgive and be friends with the person who's wronged us? No, but we can forgive them. Or, just think about, like, I'm not the forgiveness expert by any means. So the solid spirit, who realized he needed to let go of his past, he actually was an unaliver. He unalived people. And now he's serving to seek and seek forgiveness. And he has a cheerful attitude despite his horrific past. And so we have the more translucent spirit, who's very self-righteous and not having as much, not as humble. So the translucent spirit is fixed on rights and having rights. Like, this is that rights and justice. And okay, let's face it, we all sometimes get stuck in that aspect in our lives at some point.
Guilty as charged. I'm guilty.
Yep, I am too. I totally am too. Like, hey, you did that. Like, you ran over my foot. You need to apologize. Some people aren't going to apologize. Let's face it. So he's really like stressing how we need to prioritize our own grievances and reconciliation for healing. So here's where a lot of spiritualness comes in. This is how we can be, literally, he's giving us secrets to become enlightened in here. So he does, in this, kind of give up this line of, I've given up on myself. So we see in here pivotal moments of transformation and the need to release guilt and fear and our past. Yeah. So, I mean, we're ending this week on chapter 4, which is really like, I mean, all the chapters are pretty intense, but this one is really intense. Where are we when we hold our guilt, our fear, our sense of justice, the sense of forgiveness? Where are we? So your thoughts, Bryn, your thoughts on this chapter?
Well, I think the better question is not where are we with that, but what are we going to be doing with it?
Very true.
Because you can have fear and you can have it possess you, or you can have fear and say, we're good, we got this. Even though it's like, good Lord, Lanta, that's a big thing about the squishes. And Lord, I'm about to be like an octopus running in terror, throwing its tentacles all up in the air, like, it's gonna squish me. Or just instead be like, yep, that's coming for us, but, okay, let's see what we can do. Maybe if we run into it, it'll miss us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing about especially this chapter is it's that eye opener because now you've kind of figured out where he's taking us on this magic bus. No pun intended. I'm thinking of the song Magic Bus. But as we're on this magic bus, we kind of have an idea where we're at. And where are we at spiritually ourselves? You know, what are our fears? And actually, this is like really interesting. My granddaughter, we have a special crystal store we go to, and we just went yesterday. And she's actually 5.5, so she's very little. And she picked out a crystal that is in the shape of a spider, and her mom is my daughter is deadly afraid of spiders. And she won't have like Halloween stuff. If it has a spider on it, it's not allowed in her house. And I'm like, oh, are you sure you really want to get that crystal? My granddaughter really, really wanted it. And I was like, okay. So when we got to their house, I pulled my son-in-law aside. I'm like, hey, she really wanted this. And
The question is, what stone was that spider? I'm curious.
carnelian.
Oh, that is a Lilith. That is Lilith screaming in that stone right there.
Yeah.
Woo!
Well, what was really interesting is I'm like, oh, my granddaughter is so much like me because we're walking through. So she picks the spider and then she's like, picked two more crystals. I'm like, okay, you hit the budget for crystal shop today. Cause she's like, can I get like 5 things? I said, I'll tell you what, this is the amount of money you can spend. But then she finds this crystal skull. Oh, Grandma, I really need this. So
What? What stone was it?
it was actually opalite.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's nice because opalite does have that quality of opal to it. And even though technically yes, it is a man-influenced
It
stone,
does.
it
Yep.
does have that opal quality to it.
It does. And I have to tell you, like, I literally, like, I've told my daughter and son-in-law, I'm like, please encourage this because like, I love crystal shopping with her. She's extremely intuitive. And, like, I mean, here she is, she's 5.5. So, but here we get into her intuitiveness. And this is where I feel like it's really wrapped up in chapter 4. We get in the car and, I'm just explaining, okay, you can't show your mom this spider crystal. You got to keep it in a safe, secret place because when I tell you my daughter's deathly afraid of spiders, I mean that fear, like it's bad. It's very severe. And a lot of people have arachnophobia. A lot of people have these phobias that can be paralyzing. I mean, I'll never forget she was probably like 11 years old and I heard a blood curdling scream. My neighbors called me because they were afraid someone broke in our house. And it was a little teeny spider. So she has like a huge fear. And so we're in the car and my granddaughter says to me, Well, Grandma, I don't understand. They're so little and we're so big. Why is my mom scared of spiders? And I said, everybody's scared of something. So I had told her, like, I was very scared of crickets and grasshoppers. They just really grossed me out. And so, but like, I hated when they were near me or jumped on me. And I was telling her, I'm like, I went camping with your uncle. That's my son. And I'm like, we were in a place that had lots of crickets and they were crawling on me all night. And I'm like, I had to get over that fear because I loved camping. So was it give up camping, something that I love, or just suck it up? And sometimes we have to think that way about fear. And some are going to have a harder time because sometimes fears are, we don't know why they're deep rooted. We don't know why some fears can get the better of us. And I mean, I have a lot of different fears. Some of them are a little like, like I hated walking in the dark when I lived in Chicago, because you hear so many women being attacked and everything, so there's a lot of different fears, and some of them are justified fears, but do we need to live in fear? And how do we conquer that? And like really, in the small amount of pages that chapter 4 is, he's really like saying, hey, let go of your past, release your fears, seek forgiveness, find redemption, regardless of past actions that you felt were thrown on you, or you threw on someone else. I mean, really, that's, I think, in a nutshell, what he's saying. Bren, any divine wisdom that you want to throw out?
I would have to also say probably the best thing that I can even sprinkle in, because I can't get that out of my head. Gosh, it's that line though. Oh, those those that was just perfect. I can't get it out of my head, but that can also hint at the stains of other people. When you can see it, when you can see the thing that is going to be staining others, have your moment to take that step back.
Yes.
Take that step
Yes.
back. Keep it within the self, recognize it, nod the head, go with it, roll with it. Because in a way, it's like you're taking a step, and it's like you're doing, well, I think you get this analogy well. It's like you're doing a dance. They're taking their step forward, you gotta go with it, roll with it, let them have it in the moment. Just to,
Yes. I 100% agree. Like, I love that. That is so beautiful because we need to take that moment. If, it's taking that, like, if I say this, is this going to hurt this person? If I do this, is it going to hurt someone? And if you're not sure, if someone did this to me, would it hurt my feelings? If someone did this to me, would it hurt me physically or emotionally or mentally or spiritually? And if you can answer yes, then don't do it. And it's just taking that 3 seconds to think about it. Because if we can take ourselves to a higher thought process, we can spread that to everybody around us. Yeah. Heavy duty book here. And we're only only on chapter 4. Any other thoughts on what we've discussed tonight, Bren?
nope, just letting that marinate for a bit, because I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is really, I mean, it really is heavy. I mean, because I'm going to be thinking all night about it too. All right. Next week, we will be discussing chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. Because we are getting into some pretty heavy duty thoughts here. So we'll probably do 3 chapters a week, I think, to get done. So I think I think we'll be like 4 weeks. Let's see. Yeah, we'll be about 4 weeks. But please keep in mind our next book is Jezebel by Bren, and you will want to order that because 4 weeks will go by really fast because that will be, boy, we'll be starting Jezebel like the last week of October, like around Samhain.
Lovely time to start that too.
Like the universe is like giving us everything we need when we need it. It's being open to it. Well, thank you, Bren. Thank you so much. You brought so much insight. I love sharing these our moments together. So Bren and I are live every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And Tuesday, oh my gosh, we're doing the Unalive card on Tuesday, and then we'll be doing one card reading. So please join us on Tuesday.
This week. Oh.
Yep. I know. So we got to practice saying all these other beautiful phrases for this card. So, any last final words or a beautiful goodbye for us? All right. Well, I'm going to, maybe if I can figure this out. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for Witchy Book Club. Again, next week we will be doing Chapter 5, Chapter 6, and Chapter 7 of The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. Be ready for philosophical thoughts, and we'll probably like leave a little time to like go over some of what we talked about tonight because it is pretty heavy. So as always, merry meet, merry part, bright blessings, and namaste.